What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode number 2 of Real Talk with Real Fitness. I'm Coach Peter here with
Coach Lucho
and Coach Michael.
What we're going to talk about is how we train ourselves. What we personally do in our own workouts. You know, we're kind of the OGs here. Well, Lucho got some hair, but you know, Mike and I, you can see like, you know, we're a little bit up there. The hairline shows it. So we're going to talk about how we train and how it's changed over the years. And I'm going to toss that over to Lucho, the gym OG of all of us, and maybe he'll even share some hair secrets. But Lucho, how do you?
He just gave a clue.
How are you training yourself? And you know, what's your age? We all got to say our age. I'm 43, by the way. I'm 43 years old. Lucho, how old are you?
I will be 52 this year.
Okay.
And then Mike?
I'm the old man.
You're the old man.
I'm actually 52. I'll be 53 in August.
Yeah. So there's the two OGs. One, he's climbing up the ladder, so
Climbing.
So OGs.
So yeah, so Lucho, so how are you working out these days? So you're 52? You're 51?
Good. 51 still till May.
All right. And then so yeah, how are you working out these days?
Okay, so it's been an evolution of getting to where I'm at today. So my combination. Well, let me start this way. I can't work out like I did when I first started in my 20s. That's gone now. Now it's like I got the base, so now it's like, how do I maintain and keep going where I have that mobility still intact? So it's like creating a new way of training. So I do a combination of strength, mobility, explosive, and coordination. And I focus on movements that I feel the most contraction to failure. Right? And the way I do that is I do 2 sets of control, then I do 2 sets of failure. So I'm doing one that's conditioning and then one for hypertrophy.
Hypertrophy?
Hypertrophy. Oh, one thing about me, I always say words wrong.
we got the point.
Hey, listen,
I thought he was talking about something new. I'm like
I got these Invisalign.
What did you call it?
Hypertrophy. I thought he was working out underwater, like some kind of hydro,
You know, I have a feeling that people are gonna enjoy my flaws.
Hypertrophy.
Everybody's gonna have a good laugh of my flaws here. All right. So that. And then conditioning, explosive. So I'll do let's say I'll pick 3 movements. I'll do a core movement, a strength movement if it's a pull or a push, a lower extremity movement, and then followed by an explosive movement. So I'll do that as a cycle so that my heart rate intervals each time, and I'll do that for like 4 sets. So I'll pick like 3 movements, 4 sets, 2 of the beginning sets of control, 2 of the last sets of failure. And I'll do a first series of that, and then I'll do another series of 4 movements or 3 movements, depending on what body parts I'm working on. But usually it's always 2. It's always an upper body and a lower body. And it could be a push followed by a hip hinge. If I do a pull, then followed by hamstring work. So that's how I combine the workouts, and I combine it with 2 control sets and then 2 failure sets. And I'll do 4 rounds, and then followed by another 4 movements, which is strength, explosive, coordination, and conditioning.
Okay.
So that's my pretty much the whole thing.
Got it. Cool. Mike.
Damn. Yeah.
What are you doing these days?
He took my workout method.
Yeah.
Shit. Well, you know what? Great minds think alike when they're aging.
Yeah, just like you, I had an evolution. I was a skinny kid, and so when I started training, like I wanted to get big, and it never happened. I did all the right, things, progressive overload, compound movements, squats and deadlifts and bench presses. I put on a little muscle, but nothing, and I ate and nothing like I thought it would be. If anything, I just got bigger in my waist than I did anywhere else. So genetics plays a role. So if you think you're going to beat your genetics naturally, you're wrong.
That's it.
But now being 52 and I've done bodybuilding, I've done functional, I guess, training, sort of like the Michael Boyle, Dan John, all those functional guys that we started learning about 10, 15 years ago. But what I started to realize was like, and you probably have heard this more than anybody else has, but like it was like I was 90% into sagittal plane, and I sort of had this like epiphany, probably maybe a year ago, where I was like, wait a second, like everything, or 90% of exercises that I use that are sagittal plane, like forward and back. And so I started getting interested in, working different planes of motion. And I know everybody's going to be like, we've always worked at different planes of motion. I'm like, you haven't always worked at different. Maybe like you'd throw in some twisting when you were working on your core, or maybe there'd be a frontal movement because you're doing a lateral lunge or a squat or something like that. But you haven't worked in the planes of motion the way that I'm talking about. And so so about a year ago, I started shifting my thought process into how to utilize the planes of motion, and also I got really into sort of alternative equipment, like using kettlebells more often, and using the mace bar more often, and Vipers or the tidal tank like we have, and just kind of like interested in different Indian clubs and things like that. And so now I've come to this point where a typical workout for me will be a heavy compound lift. So I'll do like maybe a Zercher squat, or maybe I'll do a single leg squat, but it's got to be heavy. And then I will start to work in the planes of motion, and I usually do that with more of a power, like you were talking about. And so that's when I'll pull out a kettlebell or something like that, and I'll start working in a different plane of motion. Usually, like with a kettlebell, it'll be like the transverse plane of motion, something where I'm circling around the body, or I'm rotating and pivoting. And then from there, I've been really obsessed lately with like working my core, because the older you get, the harder it is to keep the weight off of your midsection. It's like, and now I'm getting these little fat pockets in the back here, and I'm like, what the F is this? And so now I'm dedicating every workout I do, I'm dedicating like literally 10 minutes in that workout to like core, like nipples to knees. Yeah, so that'd be my typical workout. Compound movement, something in either the transverse plane or the frontal plane, usually with a kettlebell, and then finish that up with some core. And then I like to, and this has been a kind of a trip I've been on lately. Like I like something like you were talking about with coordination and with skill sets. Yeah. So I like something that I'm kind of learning a new skill in the fitness world. And so I've got mace bar flow, I've got kettlebell juggling. That's another podcast. Kettlebell juggling, and then rope flow. So I'll end my workout, or boxing, I'll end my workout with one of those sort of skill set type of things, and I'll work on the skills for like 10 minutes. So
That's good.
That's how I'm training myself these days.
Kind of the same.
Kind of the same, exactly.
That's good stuff.
As the older you get,
Very interesting.
Yeah. So, Mr. Rosardi,
Yeah.
All right.
how's your what's your style like these days?
So I'm kind of doing a little bit of everything, similar to what Mike and Lucho said. I'm 43. I've kind of done everything you can think of, every modality in the last 20 some odd years of training. So now it's kind of like, I would say the motto would be like maintain and maybe slightly gain.
That sounds like sounds good.
Yeah.
So I try to like today I went and I did sprints. I went over to the El Segundo track and I did some sprints. So I always try to like at least once a week, weather permitting. We had some rain in LA, but like I try to get some sprints in just to try to maintain the speed that I have. Just try to maintain some athleticism. Want to hold on to that for as long as I can. So, and it's good to get outside. I like to get outside, get in the sun. I think like having an element of like an outdoor activity is always a good thing to include in your workout. So like last week we went on a hike. So it's like, but sprints has been one thing I'm trying to maintain that. Like I'm definitely not as fast as I used to be when I was younger, but I'm trying to just maintain that speed. And I think that has a good carryover to strength training and your power and explosiveness in your lower body, just being able to the ability to move fast. Like I want to hold on to that as long as I can. So that's one thing, just trying to hold on to that. And then I do kind of like what Mike was saying, where he's doing one and in his he does one compound, like a squat, right? He said a squat. And I always try to do like a heavy squat one day a week, and then a heavy deadlift one day a week, like those two movements sometime throughout the week, just again to like hold on to strength. Like I can't lift nearly as much as I used to, but I'm just trying to like give a little dose, like give some kind of, you got to hit your body with some shock. You got to shock the system. So I do one heavy lifting session on a squatting movement and a deadlifting movement. Lately it's been a safety bar back squat and a trap bar deadlift. And then I try to throw some hypertrophy work. And that's one of the things where I feel like I can, that's one of the things where that possibly gain, because I have put on some muscle mass in the last few years of just writing down what I do and trying to eat a little bit more. And just literally just doing things like curls 2 to 3 times a week. I've seen my arms get a little bigger. So there's things where I feel like it's interesting where athleticism, when I was younger in my 20s, that was the thing that I saw I could improve on. Athleticism and like absolute strength. It was easier to lift really heavy and to get faster and jump higher, but it was really hard to gain muscle. Now I found that as I slow down, it's easier to gain weight, good or bad. But it's also knowing more. I kind of know a little bit more of how to gain muscle. And I've seen some muscle gains. So that's something where I'm like, okay, let's see if I can. My problem is I don't eat that much. Like I hardly get 100 grams of protein a day. It's just hard for me to do that. So yeah, all that to say is like maintain, possibly gain. I'm really trying to hold on to my athleticism as much as I can. So doing sprints at least once a week. I like to jump. So you'll see me in here doing like some kind of jumping movements, some plyos as a warm up. And then another thing that Mike said that I will piggyback on was, I ran track. And so everything was in the sagittal plane, straight ahead. Core work was always like planks, sit-ups, crunches. That's it. Maybe some bicycle crunches, but no rotational, no like lateral bending, anything like that. So I try to always, especially on my heavy lifting days, I finish off with some kind of usually heavy rotating or side bending core work, just to mitigate, like I'm not only moving straight ahead, and it feels really good, and you're hitting the core muscles in a way that you normally don't. But that's kind of like, and I'll also add in cardio. I've been adding in more aerobic training. And that's also one of the things, just like I really like to learn in fitness, and I've learned more about the benefits of cardio and aerobic training, where we used to just kind of think about it as like, it's either endurance for a sport or it's weight loss, but now just really seeing the overall benefits it has on your health and how it can just help you in general in just regular training. So I try to do some cardio twice a week of like an actual, where I keep track of what I'm doing on like the machines or something. So I guess that's a long-winded way of saying I do like a little bit of everything in here. And it's like a culmination of learning a lot over the years and being influenced by a lot of different trainers, and now just kind of piecing it together and like fitting it all into a weekly routine. And it's a good way not to get bored. So that's my training in a nutshell at 43.
Yeah, to piggyback on that, like, I don't know what, you talked about doing curls. Like, last month or something, like, I've got something up my, because, like, I'm sick of having small. I've always had little arms. I'm sick of it. So now I've been, like, I'm throwing in, like, 2 days a week. It's just blast the arms.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And I have a little bit, but, I got to start doing the testosterone supplements now so that I can actually.
I like that statement. Was it gain a little bit? What was the first part?
Maintain and possibly gain.
Maintain and possibly gain. That's Peter's hip hop style of, which is I like that, because it's kind of what it is. It's like, man, there's no more focus on that full gain, but maintain and a little bit of gain. So you don't lose it, and then using all the planes of motion. That's the one thing is as I got older, utilizing the whole planes of motion and diversifying different styles of training to incorporate that is where the excitement, if you're into this, that's when your curiosity of finding that way. And I think that's the journey as we get older, is because there's so much information, there's so much discovery and discussion about training that when you're involved, you gather information. As you get older and you mature, you use that capability where you start to evolve your workout because you have information.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of us working together here at Real Fitness, where I'm experiencing that because I am surrounded by talented trainers that give so much different feedback and ideas. And then I just listen and then realize that I am absorbing all that information while I'm rediscovering my way of training as I get more mature. So I appreciate that with you guys.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing, because stuff like this I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know this before, and now that we're listening and sharing, it actually makes it more exciting to do these type of presentation to give you a little insight of how we think.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was talking to a couple of members that haven't been here for a while. She had said that she had, I guess she imparted some things on me she didn't mean to, but she had been trying other places out. And she just said, like, the programming here is by far the best programming. And I think it's because of that, because we do have, five trainers here. We're partners in this. We're not all trying to outdo each other. We're all trying to build each other up. And it shows in how people move here, how they get stronger, so on and so forth. So that's my plug. So if you're not coming in, if you live in this area and you're going to another gym, that's on you. That's your fault. I can't help it.